So tell me what it was like the very first UFC event that you went to and fought in. The crowd, the backstage, papers you filled out, the nerves, all that stuff. I know you were coming out of Pancrase, so you probably thought, I'm going to kill some people tonight.
Yeah, it was, for me, it was confusion. And it wasn't the confusion on whether or not I thought I could win or because of the no holds barred rules or anything. It was more of whether or not it was going to happen because we'd never seen anything like this before. You know, everything has always been controlled. And so I remember going to Japan, was it 4 or 5 days? It was the weekend before the weekend of the fight that I had defended my title. And I knocked out Fouquet with a knee. Jump on a plane with a couple Japanese guys that were working my corner along with my dad. And we went to Denver, Colorado, which is a mile high. And of course, we're not even thinking that the show is going to happen. I'm going there. I'm thinking there's just something not right. Like there's no way they can let this happen. And so I'm thinking, okay, we'll go because if it does, I want to make sure I'm there. And so we get to the event and never didn't train for Royce, because I didn't even know who we were fighting. I mean, when this thing was over, it was a tournament and nobody knew who they were fighting except Royce. Royce was the only one that knew anything that was going on. And they even practiced. I mean, their whole family had been practicing for an event like this because they were doing them over in Brazil. So they were going to bring this to the United States. And so they had all the knowledge, and all of us coming in were like, what are we doing? So even though we were told it was no holds barred, nobody practiced or trained or knew how to train in that. And so going into Denver, Colorado, we flew in, we touched down, we do a rules meeting, and the chaotic with the rules meeting because everybody's going, including Gerard Godot going, wait a minute, thought there was no rules. Like, well, why we got a rules meeting? So they go in and they start telling you that you can't wear shoes. I've never been on a wrestling mat with no shoes. I don't know how it feels. Like, what? It's like, all of a sudden, you can't wrap your hands. And they're saying, wait. And I remember James Frazier goes, well, wait a minute. I thought this was no rules. Why are we putting rules in? And they're like, then Horian goes, well, you don't have to fight. You can all just leave. You know, and of course, then the sumo guy stands up and he goes, well, I don't know, but man, I came to party and to fight. And it's like, yeah, I'm looking at the guy, and Art Davis, some of these guys were saying that he saved the show because none of us were going to fight until he jumped up and said, well, I came to party. I don't know about you guys, but I ain't going to be a pussy. I'm like, that's not what happened. What are you talking about? It's like everybody, just because someone didn't jump up and do what he did, didn't mean they weren't going to fight. I had already signed it. And I was going to fight. Even though they took the shoes, even though they put rules in, it was an exciting time. And for me, I wasn't going to miss that no matter what. And so it was just one of those things where you had people doing certain things and the miscommunication and the credit given to people where you're like, huh? What? It's like, okay, whatever. I guess we'll flow with that. So, but it was just chaotic like that. And when they brought up the rules, like I said, it got chaotic. And then, of course, the sumo guy jumps up, well, I came to party. And of course, you know, our Dave's and everybody said, well, he made everybody else think they were going to be. No, I mean, I was a champion over in Japan. I wasn't going anywhere. And the fact is, I had so much confidence I was going to win this thing that I didn't even study any of the opponents. Because I felt like, well, one guy had a gi on, he's a karate guy, and the rest of them were kickboxers, and I knew Gerard from Japan, and so I felt like, well, this is not a problem. I just take him down, I'm going to win. And so going into it, I was very confident that nobody could beat me. And obviously that changed when I met Royce and the gi, where they took my shoes away. I remember Horian saying this in the event, which to this day, just it irks me. Because I remember him saying, because someone said, you know, why can't we tape our hands? You know, and of course Horian says, well, this is just anything goes, no holds barred and whatever. So again, they're contradicting themselves. Would you go home and tape your hands before you got into a street fight? And I was thinking to myself, and of course I'm just sitting, I don't want to draw attention. I'm thinking, well, would I take my shoes off? Going into a fight where I'm only wearing shoes, even on the street? So it's just a lot of contradiction when it came to that rules meeting with no rules, and all of a sudden rules came in. It just a lot of contradicting things that happened. And so going into the fight, even as you see the first fight where Gerard Godot hit, the sumo guy rushes into him, Gerard steps aside, guy slides in and hits the fence. And Gerard Godot stands there for a minute because he has a straight kick to the guy's face. And he stops for a minute and he's thinking, can I do this? And then he goes, oh yeah, I can do this. And then bam, he kicks him. Teeth go flying, right? So even himself in the fight still put boundaries on himself for that split second going, I can do this. So that's what it was like, whereas like the Gracies were already trained in this. They already had the experience in this. We were coming in and trying to figure out whether or not this was real. And then on top of it being real, our minds going, okay, we can do this. Because most people that are trained in fighting and doing different things, which most of these guys that had a career in something else, had rules. And their mind was already trained of things that you can't do, hence Gerard Godot having to pause for a minute to kick a guy. And against a guy like Royce Gracie, you pause and you get caught in something. So it was that. It was the idea, the excitement, the joy of being able, once you found out, like, wow, this is no holds barred, to your body and your mind literally going out and being able to do those things. So once it was over and we were at the after fight party, I was frustrated and angry that I allowed myself to get in that position, because I should have thought more of it, because I didn't think it was going to happen, and then went and defended my title a week before that, thinking, well, I'm going to go down there just to check it out. And then when I found out, oh, this might happen, didn't even understand who I was going to fight. They changed the lineup 6 times, so I didn't know who I was fighting or where I was fighting until the day or the night of the fight. And then I found out I was going against Royce. On my second one, I was going against a guy who was a hometown guy, who was Patrick Smith, who was, in my opinion, as good as Gerard Godot in the stand-up, my first fight. And then I was fighting Royce right after that. So it was one of those things where I was very happy to be a part of it and exciting, but the whole process was just confusing.
Now, how did they contact you for the fight?
Well, actually, one of my students, Scott Bizak, saw a flyer that in a black belt magazine about this no holds barred thing, and he showed it to me, and that's where I was like, no, that's not real. He goes, no, this is real, and I'm thinking it's like karate, and and I'm like, there's got to be rules. There's no way you can do that because we have sanctioning bodies. He says, no, they say it is, and so I made the call, and I talked to Art Davies, and he assured me it was as real. And of course, I know promoters, right? You get down there and they bring you in the locker room and say, okay, here's how it's going to work. You can either do it or don't do it, right? Kind of like what Horian did when they put the rules in. Well, you can fight or not fight. You're already there. They know nobody's going to back down. They just know that. So that's kind of what I thought. The only problem is that it was real, and it was supposed to be no holds barred. But instead of it not being real, it was real, and then they put rules in it, and you were thinking to yourself, I'm not backing out. Like, I'm here to fight. So there was some shifty stuff going on, and unfortunately, I truly believe it cost me the fight, because if you see when I fought him this second time, it was a whole different fight.
Nobody thought Royce Gracie had a chance. They thought you were really going to rip his... I thought you were going to rip his legs off. So tell me what you were thinking.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I thought going into this. Was like, okay, I'm going to fight this guy, and he's wearing his pajamas around, and I'm just going to crush him. And I thought I was going to crush everybody. The one I thought was going to be tough was going to be Gerard Godot, but I knew if I got him to the ground, it was over. But when I went in there and I grabbed him and I went to the ground, all of a sudden I realized it was different. Like, his balance and his movement was way advanced, and I thought to myself, okay. I need to make sure I stay on top. And as I was trying to roll to the top and get out, and I had no idea on the gi, right? I didn't understand how that way they use that gi. And next thing you know, it was around my neck. And in most cases, I can just grab and maneuver. I get my chin down and get out. But I was nothing to grab onto. Here was this rope wrapped around my neck, and I was choking. And I remember tapping, and I'm thinking to myself, I just tapped. I just friggin' tapped. And my whole world at that point was like, and even after that fight, I was like, okay. And I went to the fight party to congratulate Royce. But I told myself in that fight it wouldn't happen again. And it never did. Even if I lost the fight, I never lost by submission. I got submitted one time in the UFC. Once. Never happened again. And I told myself it was never going to happen again.